National parks are supposed to be peaceful, untouched slices of wilderness. But dig through the right reports and you'll find something else. The weird stuff. The unsettling stuff. The what the hell actually happened out there stuff. Join us for part 1 of bizarre incident reports from various national parks. Welcome to Morbid Outdoors, the podcast that ventures deep into the shadows of the wild. Here, we unravel the mysteries of missing persons, explore spine-chilling legends, and share the most morbid stories that nature has to offer. From the depths of the dense forest to the highest mountain peaks, we'll uncover the secrets that lie hidden in the great outdoors. Join us as we navigate the eerie, the unexplained, and the terrifying. So if you dare, grab your gear and let's embark on a journey into the unknown. This is Morbid Outdoors. Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm your host, Elise, and this is not your average episode of Morbid Outdoors. I am trying something new. I have this, I don't think it's necessarily weird, but I have this fun/weird, I like to read incident reports. And most of the time they are like, I'm trying to do it for research for the show, but sometimes I stumble upon some really weird stuff in the incident reports. And so this is my attempt at, I don't know, just doing something a little bit different for the show, because there are a ton, like thousands, maybe even millions of incident reports. And something that I have noticed is that older incident reports are usually more detailed, and the newer ones are a little bit less detailed and more obscure. So most of these are older. I'm going in chronological order, even though they're not like related at all, because I don't know, the older ones are just wild. Some of the things that the park rangers had to respond to are just amazing. And I, as a national park lover, I just can't say enough thanks for rangers, because they are there making sure we stay safe. They are law enforcement officers, and some of them have given their lives when armed gunmen show up, or if you're lost and they're going to attempt to rescue you. So that's one thing I want to preface this and say, like, national park rangers are freaking amazing. They have a very, very hard job, and they don't get paid enough to put up with all the bullshit that comes with the job. That usually is because of the public, us. So I do want to give a trigger warning, because these are bizarre incident reports, and trigger warning for suicide, murder, and other things. I don't really feel like I need to always have a trigger warning, because this is technically like a true crime show, and I feel like most people know exactly what they're getting into when they listen to my show. However, some of the things we're going to talk about might be a little alarming today. So this is really, all stops are out. I'm just going to be reading incident reports and giving a little bit of insight or my opinion on some of these reports. So I want to know at the end, if you liked this episode, comment, let me know, because this is something I haven't done before, and I've been doing Morbid Outdoors for like less than a year. So I'm still kind of figuring out what kind of content I want to put out there regularly. I will still keep doing my like normal episodes, but I'm thinking that bizarre incident reports might be a fun addition to Morbid Outdoors. Okay, so first incident report. Let's see. We are going to Acadia National Park in Maine, and this incident report was entered in on October 13th, 1987, And the subject line is fall fatality. And this took place at the Otter Cliffs. Now, if you listen to other outdoors shows, you have probably heard about this case. However, this might be new to you, so I am including it. So it says KL and her husband were hiking around Otter Cliffs when they apparently separated in order to explore the area individually. Her husband heard a scream and discovered his spouse's body 80 feet below on the rocks at the base of the cliff. A ranger and a local EMT rappelled down to her, but she had apparently been killed instantly. The death is presumed to be accidental. Now, if you know this case, you know that the death was not accidental. It was actually a homicide. So almost 2 years later, on September 15th, 1989, there was a follow-up incident report on the 1987 homicide. And this is what that incident report says. On October 11th, 1987, DL reported to rangers that his wife, KL, and they do abbreviated things for privacy reasons, 26, had fallen from the Otter Cliffs while the two of them had been exploring the area separately. Responding rangers found her body on the rocks 80 feet below the cliff. Subsequent investigation revealed that DL had recently taken out a $400,000 life insurance policy on his wife, and other evidence also pointed to the possibility that her death had not been accidental. DL was arrested, charged with murdering his wife, and convicted of homicide this past May. On September 13th, DL was sentenced to 50 years in prison, double the minimal sentence allowable by law. So that happened. That I feel happens more often than we know, because when there are no witnesses, people use the wilderness to cover up murder. That's not the first time someone was killed in a national park by their spouse, and it won't be the last. If you've seen Hulu's Wild Crime and heard the story of Harold Henthorne, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And actually, I feel like it happens more often, and we just think, oh, they fell. And it also happened in Glacier National Park in 2015, I think. So that happens a lot. And the rangers that have to deal with this and the ISB agents, they do a phenomenal job, because these crimes, these murders in the wilderness are so hard to solve. And the fact that they don't take it for face value, like, oh, they fell, and they investigate, is absolutely amazing. Okay, the next incident report I found was from July 6, 1988 on Mount Rainier, and it's titled Rescue, and this happened on the Tahoma Glacier. RS-43 was solo climbing when he fell and slid 300 feet before hitting a crevasse and falling an additional 30 vertical feet. Although he sustained broken ribs and possible internal injuries, he used ice screws to climb out of the crevasse and then hiked 15 miles to his car. Because he was solo climbing and felt he had to rescue himself, RS refused assistance from at least one party on the mountain. Rangers heard of the incident and met him at his vehicle. He wanted to drive himself home and seek medical help. Rangers convinced him that he should go by ambulance, and he eventually agreed. The local ambulance crew thought that the park's West Side Road was too rough for him and would respond only if the park was unable to transport RS by helicopter. The park was able to get a Fort Lewis MAST helicopter for transport. So this one is bizarre, because this guy literally had a gnarly fall, 300 feet sliding and then falling 30 feet into a crevasse. And the fact that he was able to use ice screws to climb out of the crevasse when he had broken ribs and other internal injuries is so badass. And really, if you're going to be outside recreating, you got to be tough. Because if that happens to you, yeah, there is a thing called self-rescue. You can't just always sit there and hope someone's going to come save you. So this guy, he's a fucking hard ass, honestly. That is insane. And then hiked 15 miles to his car with broken ribs and other internal injuries. That is insane. Honestly, this is amazing, because he is a total badass. I'm just going to say it. And the fact that he refused assistance from other people on the mountain, like there were other people over there. They offered to help and he said, no, thanks, and kept going. That is insane. I'm sure some of this was that he was in shock and, your body does crazy things. Your mind does crazy things when you are in shock. So I'm assuming some of this was he was in shock and maybe didn't think he was injured as badly as he was. But I am able that this was a good ending, that he did not die in the crevasse, because that would have been terrible. But I mean, this just goes to show, like, if you're going to do risky stuff outside, you need to be able to rescue yourself if you can. So just thought that incident report was pretty cool. Okay, the next incident report is from April 1989 at New River. And this is this is a sad one, and I don't really think this is bizarre, but I include it because this is a real risk to a lot of people that recreate outside. Now, this incident report reads, on the morning of April 23rd, RLR 40 of Charlestown, West Virginia, was hit and killed by a train while backpacking with 3 friends along railroad tracks 4 miles from Thurmond. RLR, who was deaf, did not see the train and could not hear his companions' warning shouts. None of the other 3 people were hurt. Now, I include this because my husband is hard of hearing or deaf, and this is that is a real safety issue while recreating outside. Now, when my husband and I hike, if there are mountain bikes allowed on the trails, I always have to be very vigilant because he cannot hear people say, on your left, or watch out, And so I want to remind people that cycle, guys, hikers have the right of way if it's a hiking trail. And you can't assume everybody can hear you while you're outside, because they might have hearing loss or hearing difference, and they might not can hear you, and it's a safety thing. And then you could hurt them, or you could get hurt in the process of hitting them. So this is a real issue for the deaf community, is like environmental things, specifically outside. Now, I don't want to blame his friends. Maybe they didn't know how to clearly communicate with him, but the ASL sign for train is really easy. They could have signed that and pointed. I don't know. I mean, if you know that one of your companions is deaf, I think that you would be a little bit more aware about the situation, especially on train tracks. This is a tragic thing that happened to this man. And it just goes to show, like, the outdoors are for everyone, disabled or not. But if you are recreating with someone that has a disability, you have to be extra cautious because they might not be able to be fully immersed in that environment. And if you're going to recreate with them outside, you need to be aware of the risks and be willing to accommodate, because accessibility is key with anything, outdoors or not. And I just feel like this could have been prevented with some extra caution. And it's so sad. So anyways, I included that because I have a soapbox about the mountain bikers who say on your left, and not everyone can hear you. So just putting that out there. Our next one is from Canyonlands. And I only found this one because I was in Canyonlands a couple months ago and read this to my mom, and we both agreed that this was probably murder, but it was a falling fatality. So this happened in October 1991. Just before 8 a.m. on October 16th, R.A. 33 of Savannah, Georgia, fell to her death after watching the sunrise from White Rim Overlook Trail in the park's Island in the Sky district. R.A. and her husband had just left their observation point to return to their vehicle when R.A.'s husband heard her gasp. As he turned to look back, he heard her scream, then saw a flash of color as she disappeared over the rim. Ranger Tom Cox subsequently arrived at the scene and confirmed the fatality. 2 recovery teams were mobilized and transported to the area by helicopter. Following the county medical examiner's investigation, her body was removed by helicopter. R.A. fell approximately 400 feet from the mesa top to a boulder field at the base of a cliff. Now, I have done this trail. I've gone to this exact overlook. It's not a challenging trail. I took my mom and her friend to do it in June. However, I am scared of heights, and I will never, ever get close to one that I could potentially fall off of. If I want to see a pretty view, I'm on my hands and knees. And I don't get close because I am so scared of falling. But this story, and do I have any evidence? No, this is all me speculating. This story sounds fishy. I just think it's so fishy when a spouse falls off of something and dies, and then the other one said, "Oh, I didn't really see anything." Like, how would that even happen? Hearing her gasp, and then as he turns to look back, he heard her scream and saw a flash of color. If she gasped, she would have already gone over. You can't turn around that fast. Falling happens so fast. And I just don't think there would have been enough time to hear a gasp, turn, and then you hear her scream and you see a flash of color. I think if she gasped, she's already fallen over the edge. So I don't know. Both my mother and I think maybe murder. But of course, I have no evidence. This is all speculation because I'm cynical and morbid, and this story just sounds fishy in my opinion. But surprisingly, Canyonlands National Park has a lot of incident reports about falls because if you've been, you know, it's just all cliffs basically, unless you go down into the very remote like basin/desert. This is a very pretty trail. The island in the Sky District is very pretty, and it's actually close to Moab. So a lot of people do Arches National Park and Canyonlands Island in the Sky District if they visit Arches. So I don't know. I just feel like this is fishy, but nothing. I didn't see any follow-ups about homicide, so I'm going to assume they investigated it, or at least I hope they did. Okay, now we are going to New River Gorge National Park in October 1993. This was a shooting fatality. On October 19th, 3 hunters from the Terry, West Virginia area were hunting along the Admin Road leading down from Grandview when one of them, 27-year-old T.H., was shot in the head and killed under circumstances that are not yet clear. The incident occurred around 4 p.m. and was reported by other hunters about 2 hours later. A rope litter raising was used to recover T.H.'s body from the bottom of a steep ravine. The family of the victim arrived on scene at this time, and the victim's brother, who was intoxicated, had to be arrested for obstructing the investigation. T.H.'s father threatened to kill the man who thinks he killed his son. It appears from the evidence at the scene that the victim was illegally turkey hunting and also had been drinking. The weapon involved in the incident has not yet been recovered. An investigation is underway. So, again, another tragic story. I just want to remind everyone, alcohol and guns do not mix, ever. I just think it's so sad. It sounds, if he was shot in the head, that's not like an accident, right? That was definitely intentional. And just a few days later, on the 25th of October 1993, there was a follow-up incident report for this shooting. So this says 2 days later, Rangers arrested W.G. Sr. of Terry, West Virginia, for negligent shooting and hunting without a license. The investigation into T.H.'s death is continuing. Further charges may be forthcoming. So again, outdoors, guns, and alcohol do not mix. I don't know what negligent shooting is, but I know what negligent and shooting are, but in terms of the technical law sense, I have no idea. But this person was hunting without a license. I mean, they'll stick any charge to you, I guess, if they can prove it, but it's just really sad. And I just think, seriously, I'm going to say it again, rangers have to do hard jobs because you've got someone that was shot in the head, a brother that's intoxicated, and a dad who is threatening to kill whoever did this to his son. So, I mean, just a total mess, a total spectacle. And they have to deal with this almost on a daily basis. So, if you're a ranger, you work in law enforcement out there, thank you. Kudos to you because that job seems so difficult. Okay, next one takes place in Utah at Arches National Park in March of 1997. I included this one because I kind of thought it was funny. It has a happy ending. He doesn't die, but I just think, the outdoors are great, but maybe we shouldn't play in them like I don't know. Just listen. On March 17th, 8-year-old CH of Kaysville, Utah, jumped into an 8-foot deep pothole on top of a tall, narrow sandstone fin located in a picnic area adjacent to the Devil's Garden campground. He quickly realized that he was unable to climb out of the pothole. When his shouts failed to bring help, he removed his shoes and socks, filled them with sand and rocks found on the pothole floor, and repeatedly threw them up into the air, trying to draw attention to his location. The combination of visual and audio signals eventually attracted attention and led to a nighttime technical rescue, which concluded with a rappel of over 50 feet off the fin to the ground. CH was unhurt. The incident aroused substantial media interest in the Salt Lake City area and provided several opportunities for the National Park Service to provide preventative search and rescue information to a large number of people who will be arriving in the area on school breaks over the next several weeks. This was one of 3 search or rescue operations in the park within a 4-day period. Okay, my number one thing is, why was an 8-year-old unattended long enough to get himself stuck? Where were the parents? Second, I mean, come on. Okay, some of you are going to say, you're parent shaming. I'm not parent shaming. I'm not mom shaming. I'm not dad shaming. I am simply saying, why are children left unattended in the wilderness? That's the wilderness and the outdoors are not a place for children not to have supervision. So be mad at me if you want, but I'm just saying kids are susceptible to greater issues while outside, and I just don't think that this would have happened if his parents were nearby. Anyways, what a smart kid, not for jumping in the pothole, but also he's like an 8-year-old. I mean, he's edgy. He jumped into an 8-foot deep pothole. I would never do that. That's so scary. Kids are another level. So anyways, I mean, he's pretty smart. His rescue thing was pretty smart. I wouldn't say he's smart for jumping into the hole, but he's smart for having that, hey, I'm going to fill up my socks and shoes and throw them up in the air and keep yelling. He tried yelling at first, which is, of course, what anybody would do. But when that didn't work, he did use his brains, which is amazing, to throw stuff, the materials that he had up into the air to get attention. Now, I'm wondering how long it took for someone to notice, because if he was able to, think about that rescue plan and execute it, how long was he stuck down there just yelling for him to have to resort to filling up his socks with rocks and dirt and tossing them into the air? So that is actually a pretty cool rescue story. I'm glad he was unhurt. But also wow, that is a bizarre incident report to read. And also, I can't believe that this was one of 3 search or rescue operations within a 4-day period. So that's almost one a day. That is almost one a day in Arches National Park. Guys, the outdoors it's not Disneyland. It is not Disneyland. So I feel like I can't say that enough. And I know most of you listening know that, but like, geez, some of these things that I read on the incident reports are absolutely bonkers. Next, we're going to go south to New Mexico to White Sands National Park. When this happened, it was still a national monument. This happened in December of 1999. This incident report reads, a Lance missile being tested on the nearby White Sands Missile Range went awry and crashed into a remote area of the park earlier this week. The liquid-fueled missile, which is about 20 feet long and 3 feet wide, was traveling at supersonic speed when it struck and buried itself in an undetermined depth in an alkali flat. A crater about 25 feet in diameter resulted and quickly filled with water due to the high water table. Hazardous materials are present. Park and Army personnel are working on mitigation and compliance efforts. Now, when I was reading about all of the incident reports in White Sands, there were a ton just like this, where the missile range that was nearby was conducting testing and like missiles were like falling out of the sky into the park. And that is so scary. That is so scary. Like I've been there many times. But how scary is it that a missile could just come out of nowhere and get you? So of course they closed the park and, got it cleaned up. But that's just to say, if you're ever in White Sands or basically any desert and you see a really cool puddle of water, a small lake, don't get in. It might have hazardous materials from a missile. So apparently that happens all the time in White Sands, which is, I don't know, just kind of shocking. And if you've been to White Sands, it's like pretty vast. It is vast, not pretty vast. And I don't know how they even find the missiles that get lost in the park, because it is sand, so it's not like down trees or anywhere that you can see the path that the missile fell. You wouldn't really see a path unless it was like crazy, crazy deep crater, I guess. So the next one is from March 2006 in Hot Springs National Park, which is my hometown, and the subject line is attempted suicide. Rangers received a report of a suicidal man camped illegally at Graves Gravel Pit just before midnight on February 25th. Rangers and Hot Springs Police Department backup officers contacted the man, whose torso and arms were covered with blood from a self-inflicted wrist laceration. He refused to comply with commands and threatened the officers at the scene with bodily harm. A ranger used pepper spray on the man, but with no effect. The man told the rangers that, quote, I put pepper spray on my breakfast. He was eventually calmed to the point where he could be safely taken by ambulance to a local hospital where he was put on a 72-hour hold. He's been charged with interfering with agency functions and with out-of-bounds camping. Now, first, I want to say, I don't think it's right to charge someone that obviously is having a mental health crisis, who wasn't hurting anybody else. He was trying to hurt himself, and that's terrible. But why are we going to further rub salt in the wound by charging him with interfering with agency functions and out-of-bounds camping? Like, who gives a freak about that? He needed help, and luckily, the officers and rangers were able to get him help, but like, come on. I don't know, that just rubbed me the wrong way. But also, seriously, park rangers are like trained for suicide attempts because, and this is from what I read online one time, that something happened to me in Great Sand Dunes one time, which is a story for another time. But basically, national park rangers are like trained for suicide and attempted suicides because a lot of times people think they're going to go out to these national parks, these very pretty areas, and just go back to nature. Starvation takes a very long time, and a lot of people attempt to do death by starvation out in the wilderness and end up usually being rescued or having to be rescued. Some people go out there and do it I don't even know how to say this, the very common way, while others have other things in mind. So That is why I put a trigger warning on this episode. This is really heavy stuff, but if you didn't know, now you do. National park rangers, they're specially trained for suicide and attempted suicides because it happens so often in our national parks. Now, the reason I included this one in the bizarre incident reports is because they thought that maybe if they pepper sprayed this man, he would obviously, go down to the ground. He did not. It's like their pepper spray had no effect on him, which is absolutely wild. And then he proceeded to tell the rangers that he eats pepper spray for breakfast. I just find that a little comical, and I'm just looking for the little funny and like the really heavy. So I thought that was funny because he was obviously very escalated, and the pepper spray had no effect. And I can't even imagine what the officers' reactions were when they pepper sprayed him and it didn't have any effect. It's like, was the pepper spray expired or what? Maybe this guy was just so escalated. The adrenaline was pumping and the pepper spray did not work, but I just thought it was funny that he had this very sassy remark for the officers. Next, we are going to go to Yellowstone National Park. Now, this happened in November of 2020, so you can only imagine what everyone was dealing with at this time. The subject line reads, 3 busted for cooking chickens in hot spring. Yes, this is what park rangers have to deal with. An Idaho Falls man and 2 others are in hot water, after being found with cooking pots and 2 chickens in a thermal area of the park. On August 7th, a ranger received reports that a group was hiking towards Shoshone Geyser Basin with cooking pots. The ranger responded and discovered 2 whole chickens in a burlap sack sitting in a hot spring with a cooking pot nearby. The ranger spoke with a group of 10, including a child. So these people were taking their children to commit felonies or misdemeanors. I don't know. The Idaho Falls man and 2 others were cited for foot travel in a thermal area. The first man was also ordered to appear in a Mammoth Hot Springs court. The man pleaded guilty to the citation on September 10th, in addition to a charge for violating closure and use limits. He was ordered to pay a $600 fine for each charge and will serve 2 years of unsupervised probation. During that time, he is banned from the park. Now, this is not the first time park visitors have been in trouble for trying to cook chicken near a geyser. In 2001, a Seattle television show host and producer dug a hole in the park to show how natural heat could cook chicken. The show was reportedly fined $150 and placed on a 2-year probation for disturbing mineral deposits in a national park and stepping off trails near steaming geysers. I just want to know what goes through your head when you think, I'm going to cook a whole chicken in a geyser at Yellowstone. Like, what? I can't eat, like, why? Just to say you did it? Like, I don't understand. Like, you have 10 people and a kid, and you guys are gonna go cook a chicken in a geyser at Yellowstone. Like, why are you doing that? It's just so weird and bizarre. Next, we're gonna go to Ross Lake National Recreation Area in Washington. This was November 2023, and the subject line reads, human remains found. On October 12th, 2 anglers found possible human remains inside a suitcase in a remote area of the park. These fishermen told National Park staff about their discovery. The Whatcom County Sheriff's Office is investigating the incident, and no other details have yet been released. Now, I actually found this incident report while I was doing research for my first episode about a man that goes missing from North Cascades National Park, because they kind of thought maybe these were his remains, but they were not. And as far as I can tell, I haven't seen any updates about this case, and it's been like, I don't know, almost 2 years. So it's just crazy that human remains were found in a suitcase in a remote area in the water, and nobody knows anything or nobody's saying anything. Here's another one that happened in Yellowstone just a year ago, in August of 2024, and the subject line reads, drunken spree. On August 10th, an individual born in 1967, that is in quotations, attempted to purchase beer at the Old Faithful Upper General Store. After their credit cards were declined, the individual stole a service station heavy-duty wrecker. They then drove north, turned around, drove the wrong way on a one-way road near the Old Faithful Lodge, went off the pavement, drove through a fence, and came to a stop in a field. They exited the tow truck and ran south into the trees. A tow truck driver began to run after the individual, but was ordered to stop by 2 National Park rangers. The rangers pursued the individual through the trees and across the Grand Loop Road through traffic, where 2 other rangers were able to stop the individual at gunpoint. When asked their name, the individual gave a fabricated name and said that they were an, quote, undisclosed United States Marshal, and they needed the truck to get to the United States Marshal's headquarters. The individual had the smell of alcohol on their bean. The individual was brought to Mammoth Jail. They refused to participate in a field sobriety test, preliminary breath test, or blood draw, which require a warrant to perform, which that's within his rights, I guess. The individual has been charged with 9 misdemeanors, including destruction of federal property, reckless driving, and a DUI. On August 12th, the individual pled guilty to all charges. The judge ordered the individual to be detained with a formal detention hearing on August 15th. Now, obviously, I hope this person gets help. It sounds like they might struggle with alcoholism. But can you imagine being at Yellowstone with your family and seeing this giant trucker just going the wrong way, I mean, I'm just glad that nobody got hurt, like this guy or anybody else, and that he got out on foot and started to run through traffic, and 2 park rangers are trying to catch him. Like, honestly, if I saw something like this happen, it would be just like a bucket list thing. Like, I'm seeing something that's going to end up on a legit national park incidents report. I would love that, as long as no one was getting hurt. But anyways, yeah, so this individual did not give his name, but said he was born in 1967. So hope that guy got some help, but still kind of a funny incident report to read. And our last one of the day is also from Yellowstone from October 2024, and the subject line reads, Cat travels 800 plus miles. On June 4th, while camping at the Fishing Bridge RV Park in Yellowstone, a couple's pet cat named Rainbow was spooked and ran off into dense trees. The family spent several days putting out treats and toys to attempt to lure the cat back. The couple left when their camping stay ended on June 8th, unsuccessful at finding Rainbow, which is really sad. About 2 months later, the cat was spotted in a neighborhood in Roseville, California, located over 800 miles from Yellowstone. A person who lived nearby gave the cat food and water until they were able to trap him on August 3rd. The cat was admitted to the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and the shelter utilized Rainbow's microchip to contact the couple who lives in Salinas, California, and they were reunited on August 4th. The cat had lost 6 pounds in the incident. It is unclear whether or not the cat walked or has been transported by other individuals towards Roseville. Now, animals can travel very, very far, like farther than I think we really think. But I don't think the cat actually traveled like 800 miles by itself. I think it probably stowed away in someone's RV or car, or someone brought it. You know, cats, when they're scared, they want to go into small places. And it's not uncommon for cats to get under wheel wells or within engines. And yeah, so I just thought that was interesting. This couple was reunited with their cat after months. And I'm sure they were so relieved to have their little Rainbow back. Anyway, so yeah, this was just some bizarre incident reports that I found over the past year. Wanted to share. Some of them we can learn a lesson. Some of them are just fun, and some of them are just straight bizarre. So if you liked this one or you have any suggestions, leave me a comment, please. I think this would be a fun thing to keep going. Every so often, I would do bizarre incident reports. And I hope you guys have a great week. I will see you next time. As always, recreate responsibly and remember, sometimes the great outdoors aren't always great. Thanks for listening to Morbid Outdoors. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. It's free, easy, and it helps us out immensely. When you subscribe, you get updates on our latest episodes, and it also boosts our visibility, making it easier for other curious souls to find us. Another great way to support Morbid Outdoors is by leaving us a review. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, a quick review helps us know what you love about the show. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Morbid Outdoors Podcast. You can email us case suggestions and your campfire stories at morbidoutdoorspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for the support, and I'll see you next time.